when you have acute inflammation, which is the short-term one, you can take painkillers only for a short period of time. But if you find yourself constantly taking painkillers, this may indicate that there is something going on. Hello, this is Tomi Abibu, an independent prescriber pharmacist here in the UK. See, initially I have named this podcast Optimize Health Podcast, but I've decided to change it to Tomi Abibu because in this day and age, a one-on-one connection is so critical. So I'm going to be focusing this podcast, as I did with Optimize Health, on discussing the conditions that I believe that is plaguing the whole world. It's just not here in the UK, but all around the world. And it's really caused by three main conditions. If we are able to keep this diseases at bay, then we can live a better life. As we get older, we are more prone to this condition, especially certain ethnicity. But I'm going to be focusing on high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and also inflammation, and understanding how our current lifestyle, how the available resources that we have, how we combine this together to help to improve our health so that we can prevent these diseases. And anyone that already has this disease, we can also halt the progression of these diseases. Because I'm also a pharmacist, I can also discuss medication with regards to these conditions, specific medication, how they work, their side effects, and whether it can be reversible or not. We'll be discussing all of that. I also intend to bring in guests because it's important to hear from other healthcare professionals within the industry. No man is an island. I don't know everything. However, it's important to investigate what the current data is saying, the resources that are out there, because things keep changing and we have to be up to date with the level of information that we have. I would also be talking about webinars. I'm going to be creating certain webinars. If you feel you fall into the category, then you can register for them, mainly focusing on high blood pressure, high blood sugar. These two conditions, I believe, affect almost half of the population. And if we can have more knowledge on this condition and what we can do to slow down this progression, that will be beneficial to everyone. So I would like to invite you at this point to support this this podcast, whether you're listening on Spotify or on YouTube. Do like the video and subscribe to the channel or podcast. So today I want to really focus on the truth about inflammation and weight. What is the connection? What is the interaction? What is the relationship between inflammation and weight? So when it comes to inflammation, there are two types of inflammation. Number one is acute, because that acute inflammation, and chronic inflammation. So what is acute inflammation? See, acute inflammation is when your body is saying, oh, I am hurt. So there are two kinds of inflammation: acute inflammation and chronic inflammation. See, acute inflammation is your body's first line of defense. So when you have a cut, when you get a cut on your skin, for example, or a sprained ankle, for example, or when you get a common cold, your body sends a signal saying, oh, I'm hurt, I need to be healed, right? So it sends what we call white blood cells to the area that has been affected, therefore causing swelling and redness, which is good because this is the process in which your body is using to heal itself. We want that. The good thing about acute inflammation is that it's short term, it's not long term. So it turns itself on and it turns itself off, which is what we want it to do. Now, this kind of inflammation is what happens when our body is trying to fight viruses during the winter time, during the flu season, when it's trying to repair itself and protect itself. We like this acute inflammation. It's good. It's a good process. The other type of inflammation is chronic inflammation. See, this one is the silent one, a silent inflammation, a silent condition, is a low-grade one. It's so silent that you may not even know that it's happening. However, the symptoms you're going to be getting, it's what you need to pay close attention to, because that is what it's saying to you. Oh, I've got inflammation, something is wrong. But you have to pay close attention to it. So chronic inflammation is long-term. It doesn't turn itself off unless you remove the trigger and try to heal your body from inside out. And that's the point. That's the purpose. That's what we have to focus on doing. So it's often triggered by things like processed foods, stress, poor sleep, and even environmental factors like, for example, alcohol. So it can be prevented if we work on it. But it's so critical to try to prevent this, because as you would see along, you wouldn't find out that chronic inflammation is one of the causes of major diseases in our body. From a personal experience, sometime last year, I realized that my body was getting so tired, so weak. I couldn't understand what was going on. Like when I get up, I was just constantly feeling heavy, just some form of unwellness inside of me. I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't flu, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. Then I did a blood test and I realized that the biomarkers indicating that there's an inflammation was so high in my body that different proteins, when you do a blood test, saying to you that you have a high level of inflammation. So something is going on here. This is part of the reason I started looking and digging down, investigating about inflammation, and so many things was coming out. I'm going to try and cover as much as possible, but I can't cover everything in this video, but I'm going to try my best. So what are the signs your body might be showing when there's inflammation inside of it? What signs should you look out for that will be telling you you may have inflammation in your body? So number one is fatigue. When you're constantly tired for no reason and the tiredness doesn't go away, you may want to look into that. Number two, brain fog or poor concentration. When you can't seem to concentrate and you're having brain fog, this may be an indication that your body is going through certain stress levels. So this may be that you have inflammation. Another one is joint stiffness and aches and pains. When you find yourself that you're constantly taking painkillers to relieve pain in your body, it may just be that you have chronic inflammation, because when you have acute inflammation, which is the short-term one, you can take painkillers only for a short period of time. But if you find yourself constantly taking painkillers, this may indicate that there is something going on. Poor sleep quality, if you can't sleep at night, if you're having anxiety and mood swings, slow recovery after workout. When you do a good workout and you're finding that you are not recovering properly, you're constantly having pain over a longer period of time than usual, you may want to get checked out and see whether there's something else going on. Bloating, IBS, food sensitivities, and also importantly, stubborn belly fat. This may be an indication of inflammation. I'll explain later. Even when you exercise and you realize that this belly fat is not going anywhere, this may be as a result of chronic inflammation. So I want to mention that certain things that are common inflammation trigger factors. So if you put this at the back of your mind that, okay, this may cause my body to have inflammation inside of me, then that would be great. So number one is sugar. Sugar is I would say personally, sugar is the number one main factor of inflammation in the body. I will explain later, but just accept what I've just said. It is the number one factor. Number two is processed foods and seed oils. Processed foods, you may want to ask yourself, why is processed foods in the list? When you go to the supermarket, looking at the ingredients in processed foods, a lot of these ingredients are not compatible with our body. When we eat them and it goes in our system, your body keeps saying, what is this? How am I going to treat this? How should I treat this? This is why sometimes the best way the body treats it is by saying, oh, this is something foreign. This is a stress on my body. And inflammation process starts. So I'm not saying don't eat processed foods, but it's good to be aware of it so that you don't overeat this. Number 3 is stress, poor sleep. These two are responsible for releasing a hormone in the body called cortisol. So cortisol is a hormone that is good when it is released for a short period of time. For over a long period of time, it just causes unnecessary damage into the body. And environmental factors like alcohol or smoking, these may cause your body to have inflammation from inside out. Now, then you may want to ask yourself, so how is inflammation related to weight? What is the relationship between inflammation and weight? I'm going to discuss about 5 relationship between inflammation and weight so that we can have a deeper understanding. Number 1 is that inflammation triggers something called insulin resistance. See, when your body is in chronic inflammation, what happens is the cells, doesn't know how to respond to insulin. Why? Because the hormone itself, which is insulin, is responsible for removing glucose from your blood into your muscles so that it can use it as energy. Like as I'm moving my body, I'm using the glucose in my muscles. But when your body, the cells cannot respond properly to insulin, that means the glucose is not being taken away from your blood and is not being used up. That glucose is going to be stored as fat. Now, this is not what we want because the whole purpose is to burn up fat, right? Over a period of time, obviously the stored fat becomes increased weight and then it becomes very difficult to lose weight. This is why you may have been hearing a lot of people talking about a low carb diet, high protein. This is really the premise of it, because most people right now in today's world have insulin resistance, meaning that our cells is not responding to insulin. The moment you remove carbs from your diet, this is when you start seeing changes, good changes in your body. Number 2, inflammation raises cortisol. I mentioned cortisol earlier on. See, cortisol is an important hormone for stress. So when your body is stressed, it releases cortisol. However, cortisol over a period of time also encourages fat storage. So stress and inflammation, both of them would cause a release of cortisol over a period of time. And this is when you find yourself that you're craving junk food, you're constantly feeling tired. Know that when you have this feeling, think about cortisol. It's your body saying, okay, I'm stressed. I'm constantly stressed. There's inflammation. I am constantly going to be releasing cortisol. You may have high cortisol inside of you. Number 3 is gut health. Inflammation in the gut, it's not something that is good. And sometimes we don't even know we have it because you can only just think about how you're feeling. Like if you're feeling bloated, or if your digestion is sluggish, or you're constantly ill, it may mean that your gut is inflamed. Normally with your gut, when we eat after digestion, the nutrients is removed into our bloodstream so that our body can use it. But during gut inflammation, what tends to happen is that the gut becomes leaky, meaning that food particles, tiny food particles, can seep in through the gut and into the bloodstream, and we don't want that. We only want specific nutrients, but that's what happens when you have gut inflammation. So we do not want that. Now, many people don't realize they have gut inflammation, but it's one of the reasons why it can affect the weight as well. It can affect when your body becomes sluggish, you'll have bloating around your belly. These are very, very important factors to look out for. And there are simple blood tests that you can do, or gut health tests that you can do to figure that out. Number 4 is slowed metabolism. Your metabolism can be slow when there is inflammation. And obviously, if you have slow metabolism, it means that you can't lose weight as much as you want to lose it. Because when there's inflammation in your body is saying, oh, I am stressed. I need to hold on to my energy. I need to hold on to everything I have. This is when the metabolism is slow. You get tired, get even more tired, even more inflamed. It's like a vicious cycle, to be honest. If you think about it, it's like a vicious cycle. So if you feel like you're doing everything you can, if you feel like you're eating well, you're exercising, and nothing is happening, do think about inflammation as one of the factors that may be causing the slow metabolism in your body. Finally, we have something called mitochondrial damage, and see, your mitochondria is it's something in the cells that is responsible for production of energy. So it produces energy, it helps us to burn fat, it produces the energy, it keeps our metabolism on, we use our energy for different kind of things. But when the mitochondria is being affected, then this process is affected. Then you don't burn anything. Your metabolism is slow. You don't have energy to use because your metabolism is literally almost dead, and you feel tired. So all of this is kind of connected. It's like a vicious cycle, as I mentioned earlier. So just to literally wrap things up, chronic inflammation causes issues with your hormones, especially your cortisol level. It slows down the metabolism. It affects the gut. It also affects production of energy through affecting your mitochondria in your cells. So if you have those 4 points in your mind, then you have a better understanding of how to literally manage this. I guess the take home here is that I'm not sure that inflammation has been a high topic, has been advertised topic to enough people, because the more I look into it, the more I dig into it, I realize that if we can literally manage chronic inflammation in our body, it may prevent a lot of diseases. However, it's a topic or an area that is still not clear to a lot of people, and it requires a deeper understanding of how the body works from a metabolic point of view. And I guess the more you probably watch my videos or watch more related videos or listening to more podcasts, you may have a better understanding. I'm going to create more and more videos in breaking this down even more, because I can't cover everything in the video. It will be just too much information. So I would say, like this video, share with this channel with as many people as you believe that it might help. Or if you're listening on Spotify or any podcast, do also support this so that it would help me to produce even more videos that would help. Remember, I'm going to be focusing on high blood pressure, high blood sugar, inflammation, and also inviting other health professionals within the industry, hearing about their experiences and how we can continuously help ourselves to live well and live longer. So see you next time.